Hi, and welcome to this coding demo. I'm going to show Python doctest in action. I'm Norman McIntyre. Let's get started. You can follow along by going to repl.it. That stands for read, evaluate, print, and loop. And of course, this is how Python interactive level works. You can just point your browser here from any computer and click on New right here in the corner. And then I'll choose Python. Then I'll choose Create REPL. So the nice thing of this, you can go from any web browser and bring up a new session for Python. What I'm going to do here, since we're talking about doc strings, I'm going to begin with a doc string. So I'll put my beginning there, and for this demo I'll say this function gives the sum of two numbers. Alright, so we're going to have a function, and the cool thing about doctest is that you can give an interactive section here in your documentation. So I'll say, for example, this, and I expect that to return 42. Okay, that's basically an interactive session there, as that I want to have in my documentation. Let's just have a function. We'll call it sum. And let's say we pass in num1 and num2, and very easy, we just say return num1 plus num2, right? No big deal there. Everybody knows how to do that. Now, the thing about when you're writing your code and you're putting your module together, what you can do is make it where you can run it as a standalone module, and of course in that case we would have if underscore underscore name underscore underscore, if that is exactly equal to underscore underscore name here as a string. So if we have that case, which we will when we're running it standalone, then I'm going to do a print so that we know that we got here, and say doctest, I'll say doctest code demo. And then what we want to do is import, and what we want to import import is doctest. So I've imported doctest, and then since this is going to be a module, we want to say, okay, doctest, how about test the module? So go ahead and test our module, and right there it will run our test and test everything for us. In fact, maybe at the end we might want to say print all done, so we'll know we're all done with it. Now by default, if I come up here and click on run, notice it will run my code over here. So this is the output on our system. This is actually a virtual Linux console that's been provided for us. And notice that by default it just says yes, everything passed, so it was quiet. We didn't see any extra information. On the other hand, let's say I go in here and I comment this out, and instead I say return 0. So obviously that's an error, that this line 4 and 5 will no longer match what's returned from this function. So now when I click on run, notice at that point we get output. So the nice thing about doctest is it stays quiet unless it finds an error. And the error reporting is very good. Notice it shows the file that it was in. It shows the line it was at, so line number 4, right? It was trying to execute this interactive session. It shows what it was trying to execute. It shows what it expected and what it got. So you absolutely will know if a test fails. You'll know why it failed. And if you have a lot of tests, at the end it will give you a summary of all the tests. So that's pretty cool that we can do that. But there are times when you just like to see the verbose output even on success. So you have the option of being able to have here, when it says test mode, you have the option of saying verbose equals true. And if you say verbose equals true, notice I've removed the error case, and so now we should have a clean run, which previously ran silently. But now notice when we run it, we will have verbose output. And what's cool about this, you can follow the test and see exactly what it was trying, what it was expecting, and when you see OK, you know that it passed it, and it'll go through and give you basically a trail of how it tested the code. Alright, let's add another function to our test, or to our module here. Let's have a define. How about prod for product? We'll pass in num1 and num2, and this time we'll say return num1 times num2. And let's put us a test up here. So let me put the test here. I'll say product of 10 and 10. I'm expecting 100. Notice I got trying the sum, that worked okay, trying the product, and that worked okay. Alright, let me clear a new workspace, and let's do one like this. Let's say we want to have a program that's going to test the file to read the interactive instructions in the file. So I'm going to have let's do this. What we want to do is import doctest, and then from that we're going to say doctest, how about do a test file, and the test file we'll call demo.txt, right? So that's something we've got to do, and then we'll say print all done. Now if we run this right now, we don't have a demo.txt, and in fact when we do it, we see we crash, right? We have a trace back because it cannot find that file. But I'm going to go right here and click add file, and I'll go ahead and call it demo.txt. And here in my demo.txt, say this is some text for demo purposes. And let's suppose what we want to be able to do is import something called mymod, which we've not written yet. We'll write it. But let's suppose inside mymod what we want to do is say mymod.sum, and we pass it two numbers, and we're expecting 42 to come back. Alright, so that's what we want to do inside this test. Well, right now if we run it, although we now have this file, when I run it, we get errors because when it reads in this file, when it tries to do the import, it raises an exception because we don't have an import. We don't have mymod. So let's add that. We'll add another file, mymod.py. So this will be our module. And inside this module, let's have our, I'll just do it super simple. I'll say we have the sum, num1 and num2, and we'll just return num1 plus num2. So that'll be our module. And then from there, what we'll do is, let's see, so num1 plus num2. And then what we will do, well, that could be our module right there. Typically what we would do is in our module, if we want to do our testing, for example, let's say inside this module I did the following. I said this function returns the sum, and inside of there I said here's an interactive session, the sum of 40 and 2, and return 42. And of course I could put in here, like we've learned, I could say if underscore underscore name is exactly equal to underscore underscore main. So this would be if we ran it alone, which we're not in this case. Just to show that this does not run, I'll say print we don't get here. So for this demo we're not going to get here because we won't run it as a standalone. But I'll go ahead and do import doctest and say that if we were doing this, doctest dot test. So we'll do it like that. Okay, now here's what I want to observe. We're going to start our main. Our main is going to call this test file. This test file has an interactive session that's going to import my mod, which we have my mod in our same project. It's then going to call sum. So let's give this a run and watch what happens from our test program here. So I'll say run. And notice we get totally quiet output because by default we said this stays quiet. However, when we call test file, we do have the option of saying verbose equals true. And now when I run it, notice it tells us that it's first trying to import my mod, and of course it gets OK. Then it's trying to do the sum. This is what it was expecting, and then it got OK. As always, try these examples, make sure they work for you as well. You could try them inside this web browser. You could also try them at the command line. And in fact, I would suggest do both so you can compare and contrast. The results should be the same. I'm Norman McIntyre. Thanks as always for watching.